Welcome to CivilNet. We have a very special guest here in our studio. His name is Hrayr Jebejian, and he is the General Secretary of the Bible Society in the Arabian Gulf. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
You are here taking part in the commemoration ceremonies leading up to April 24th. You have been invited by the government of Armenia. Before we talk about the genocide, the 100 years, the commemoration, the events, the conferences, the articles, and the books that are being published, I want to talk a little bit about you and your work, your mission in the Middle East. You were born in Cyprus.
No, Beirut, Lebanon.
You were born in Beirut, Lebanon?
Yes.
But you now live in Cyprus?
But since 2005, yeah, I'm living in Cyprus, yeah.
And you have traveled extensively
yes.
in the Middle East,
yes.
and part of the Armenian Evangelical Church. You are a lay preacher. The Middle East today is in crisis. Perhaps it always has been in crisis, but perhaps now with social media and with information flows being so free, we hear so much about what's going on. May I ask what the future of Christian minorities will be in the Middle East? Yeah,
that's a question that so many Christian churches and organizations, they raise to me whenever I'm all around. As I said, Maria, I was born in Beirut, Lebanon. I was educated in Lebanon by both degrees, undergraduate and graduate. I received it from Haigazian University and American University of Beirut. And then I made my doctorate in theology in the New York Theological Seminary. It's been 35 years I am working with the Bible Societies. This is an international organization whose primary aim is to translate and print and distribute the Bible in a language that people can understand and at a price that they can afford. We are an international organization and we work in 200 countries all around the world. And that gives us a special commitment and a special attachment to so many countries all around the world. And it has been a privilege for me to work in such an organization. And at the same time, I have made use of my organization in order, besides my job, besides the ministry I'm involved in, I also relate with Armenian communities all around whenever I travel. And I have traveled extensively, not only in Middle East, but also Europe, and then Africa, Australia, and then North America, South America. And I've always taken the time in order to meet with the Armenian communities. And that was really, really challenging in order to know how Armenian communities really live in diaspora, because it's very, very important. It's very important to know each and every community because we have differences.
And different needs.
And different needs.
Depending
and
on the country.
Struggles, different challenges. We shouldn't say that, okay, I'm an Armenian and that's it. No. If you are a Lebanese Armenian, it's different than an Armenian who's living in Los Angeles or in Toronto or in Sao Paulo. You see, because unfortunately, we were born in the diaspora, and the characteristics of the diaspora constituency has also made up our individualities, our images. We have educated in the local context, and we have received a lot. So we are Lebanese Armenian, we are American Armenians, we are Latin American Armenians, and so on and so forth. So that's very important. That's very important to see that how Armenians all around the world are really struggling in order to maintain their faith, but most of all, especially these days, where we are commemorating the centennial, so to see how are we all united for one very important cause, and that's the genocide, the Armenian genocide, and for the acclamation of our rights.
Yes, and yet we have the Syrian crisis going on with
yes.
a very vibrant community that has been decimated because of that war.
In the Middle East, Maria, unfortunately, I'm still living in Middle East, even though I'm based in Cyprus, but that doesn't mean anything in the sense that I'm always traveling back to Middle East, and I'm working in the Arabian Gulf, and I travel all around the Middle East, so I know the struggle that we are going through. Unfortunately, with the rise of this fundamentalist movement, it's really affecting on all communities, including the Christian community. The misconception is that it's primarily targeted for the Christians. Yes, it is. The Christians are really suffering. The Christian church is being persecuted. But the Christians are not the only communities or the minorities who have been affected by this rise of fundamentalism.
Sure.
Muslims equally are suffering. I mean, if I relate with Muslim friends, if I relate with the Muslim communities in each and every country that I travel, they also are very upset with what is happening. They say we feel threatened. They say we are not happy. This is not Islam. So you can share their frustration and their anger at the same time about all these issues. But unfortunately, because we are a minority especially in the Middle East region, it's affecting on us as Christians. I mean, in Iraq, according to some of the statistics, from 1.5 million of Christians, hardly half a million Christians are left now because they are all living. Syrian Christians, it's a little bit too early maybe to find out, but definitely the number is really shrinking. I mean, including the Armenian communities. We have a big community, Syrian Armenians here in Armenia, also in Lebanon. I mean, there are more than 10,000 Syrian Armenians now in Lebanon. Not to say that there are around 1.5 million Syrian refugees in Lebanon. So you can see the crisis going on. Having said that, we as Christian communities, we are still determined in order to remain in this part of the world, because we were born in Middle East.
Yeah.
I mean, Christianity started from Middle East, Maria. So I mean, we just don't want to say, okay, we'll give up. No, on the contrary, I feel this is a very good opportunity, Maria, that we as a Christian churches, we really strengthen, even I would rather like to use the word strengthen our mission in the Middle East. This is a good time where we can show our care. This is a good time where we show our love. We can show our affection towards the communities in the Middle East. So even though the future seems a bit gloomy,
bleak, right?
Yep. But at the same time, we feel that we have a huge opportunity in order to continue our ministry.
Well, you know, there was a reason why I asked you that question to lead into my next question. As victims. As a nation who was a victim of atrocities and massacres of genocide, we have spent the last 100 years in pain, a wound that doesn't seem to heal, demanding recognition. We have gone through the stages of grief. We have gone through trying to survive. We have seen the politicization of the genocide issue. We have seen injustice, and as you said, the diaspora was born as a result of the genocide. Certainly there was diaspora always throughout Armenian history, but 1915 was that cataclysmic episode in our collective history, and it shaped a collective narrative for 100 years. And now we are all gathered in Yerevan or in the centers of where our communities are, and we are commemorating. And we continue to demand justice. And I suspect on April 25, we will continue to demand recognition. Because I don't think that any of us are naive to believe that today Turkey is going to say, yes, I acknowledge what happened. But as a nation that has suffered, have we done enough in the last century to join our voices to the atrocities that were taking place in Rwanda, in Darfur, when the Yazidis were being massacred on Mount Sinjar? What did we do? And what should the next century, post-genocide, be for us? And what should we give to humanity?
Okay, Maria, that's a very good question. But let me first comment on the very important word that you used, pain. And the pain is very, very crucial when it comes to the Armenian genocide. Yes, each and every one of us are carrying the pain. I'm carrying the pain of the genocide. I am the third generation after the genocide. I didn't see the genocide. My father was only 1 year old when he came from Aintab to Aleppo and then to Beirut where he got married, and then I was born. So I'm the third generation, but I'm still carrying the pain. My children are the fourth generation after the genocide, so they are still carrying the pain. 22 and 20 years of old. My family lost 25 members of its members, starting from the Adana massacre to the 1915 genocide. I have their pictures, each and every one of them, their pictures in my family album, because I love family tree and I love the family history. So I know by each and every one of them by name. So I'm carrying that pain. So as a person who is carrying the pain should be in a position to understand the pain of the other. The other, all those who are going through such similar situations. You mentioned Rwanda, you mentioned Yazidis, you mentioned all those different other communities who have been into similar experiences. So we as a nation, we need to really in a position to understand the other, to understand the pain of the other. Now, Whether or not we have done enough, that's also a challenging question. I remember a few years ago, His Holiness Catholicos Aram I, he organized a conference on the Rwandan genocide. I also took part in that conference in Beirut. In that respect, His Holiness is an advocate of not only the Armenian genocide, but also the genocide of the other. Maybe we need to do more. Maybe we need to, especially after the famous sermon or message of the Vatican from His Holiness Pope Francis, where he said it's not only the genocide, the Armenian genocide is not only for the Armenians, but it's the genocide against humanity. And this is really, really very much real, and it's very true. And I also would like to look at it from the Christian perspective. The Christian theology, Maria, is based on the understanding of the other. Christ came to this world in order to find the other. And the other can be me, the other can be you, the other who is living in Rwanda, the other who is living far away in Africa, and so on and so forth, or in Americas and so on. So the Christian theology is based on the understanding of the other. So as Christians, we need to also be in a position to understand the other in its own context, the other in its own language, in its own culture, in its own situation. And especially we as Armenians, we have been in this painful experience of a genocide, so we should be in a better position to really understand the pain of the others. And by understanding the pain of the others, we can understand our pain much better. If you can understand your own situation, if you can understand your own identity, you are in a much better position to understand the other in his or in her own context. And again, this is, if you allow me, Christ said, love your friend as yourself. So in the Christian theology, there isn't the issue only love the other, but also love yourself. So how do you interpret that? Love yourself is when you love your identity, when you love your language, when you love your culture, when you love your history. And by loving yourself, by loving your identity, by loving, you can be in a better position in order to love the other person. So if you also look from the Christian perspective, as Armenians, we should equally be in a position in order to be the advocate. And I think the Armenian government, they also recognized the genocide of the Yazidis and all the minorities, yes, right? Yes, the Assyrians. So, I mean, in that respect, this is a very, very encouraging step from our government, from government of Armenia, that not only advocating for the genocide of the Armenians, but also for the genocide of the... And if the genocide, in the first genocide of the 20th century, which is the Armenian genocide, would have been recognized in those days, then perhaps history wouldn't have repeated itself, right, where we're having so many genocides until today. I mean, genocide is not only in numbers.
No, absolutely.
I mean, if you, 2 days ago, they just beheaded 30 Christian Ethiopians in Libya. What is this? It's again crime against humanity, right? Sure, certainly, certainly. It's you see how it's going on. Its history is repeating itself.
Yeah, and certainly that has been the message that I think that Armenians have tried to espouse to the world for many decades. How important was the Holy Mass that was led by Pope Francis in the Vatican for the recognition and for perhaps motivation, if we may say that, yeah, for Turkey today? And then, of course, we had the European Parliament resolution. Yes, yes. There are hopes that the Bundestag on April 24th, hopefully, you know, much can happen in 24 yes, hours. Yeah. So, how important was this? Is this a momentum, or is this just right now? It's the 100th anniversary, and people are saying, well, maybe we should do something about this. Yeah, I think we have we're really gaining ground. That's my perspective, Maria. Okay, we're as Armenians, both as the government of Armenia and the diaspora, in terms of the genocide, both in terms of recognition and the cause and so on, we're gaining ground, and we're if you allow me to say, we're on the right track. Okay, just more and more gaining ground, and the Vatican was, I can say, it's one of the top climax in that sense. And of course, we shouldn't forget that the Vatican, as a church, as an institution in the international arena, as its important vital place. But the
the important part is that the Armenian genocide came out of its Armenian or so-called local context, and it became an international issue. And I think the Pope really did a fantastic ministry or job in that sense by really putting the Armenian genocide as a genocide against humanity. And the reason why, and he emphasized very much on that the reason why today the genocide is being repeated is because the genocide in the earlier 20th century was not condemned, was not read. So in that sense, I think it's very crucial, it's very important, and we're following the news and how it upset Turkey.
Sure.
And so, but of course, it also is gaining a lot of recognition and ground.
Hrayr Jebejian, you know, I think that we can have perhaps a series of conversations, because it really has been a fascinating conversation with you here today. But just as a final question, as I said, April 25 will come and we will now enter the next century. What do you see for the Armenian nation? What is it that we want? What is it that you would want us to become, okay, if you had the power?
Yes, I think we need to work on several fronts, if you allow me to say that. First is, it's become obvious and it's clear that the Armenian situation now is a triangle: Republic of Armenia, Republic of Artsakh, and the diaspora. This is our strategy. It has been our strategy, but it looks like after the centennial, this will really be more developed or more motivated. We're doing a lot in this triangle, and it's also very good that this triangle is also meeting on the motherland here, Hrayr in Armenia, which is equally very challenging and inspiring. So in this sense, I think after the 2015, in 2016, 101st anniversary, we need to continue on this momentum, but there needs to be more development in terms of strategy. Okay, how are we going to strategize? Should we continue in the way that we were doing all this year, or we need to put it in a new platform? And to a greater extent, I feel the ball is on the diaspora context. I think the diaspora should really come out with in a new context, in a new mindset, in a new strategy. We just cannot work independently anymore. Each diaspora community is doing a fantastic job, if that is the right way of putting it, in terms of the recognition of the genocide, in the advocacy work, and so on and so forth. But I feel the time has come where we really need to come over and above of our local situation, and we need to really think big as a diaspora. And how are we going to bring all these different diaspora fractions together into a one sort of good, solid, officially recognized platform where people will say, this is the diaspora, the Armenian diaspora, and that's a challenge. It's not easy. I can tell you it's not easy because of differences in our mindset, differences of lifestyle, differences of living habitat, different of our pattern and so on. But it's not impossible, Maria. It's not impossible. I think we can do it. If we want it, where there is a will, there is a way. If we want it, if we want to do it. Secondly, Maria, I think we really need to work on our young generation. And this, I always look at to my children. And my children, it's not, I don't want to say that my kids are the example, but being a father, having two young children, 22 and 20 years old, I can see how their development is in terms of Armenian. We need to put the pride of Armenianness in this young generation. That's also very, very important. They need to really feel proud of being Armenian. They really need to be proud people of their Armenian identity, of their Armenian language, of Armenian history, Christianity, and so on and so forth. And this is very, very important. And in this respect, the homeland, Hrayr, is also playing a very important role and should continue. Because I can see again from my kids, they spent a whole month last summer here. And they enjoyed it so much. That prideness even increased. So this should also continue. I was just talking a few minutes ago in the American University about the same issue. Young people are getting so excited when they're coming to Armenia. I mean, you can see it from the face. I was just having a breakfast with Armenian kids from New Jersey, from Hovnanian School today. And you could see how happy they were, even though they were feeling jet lag and so on. They were feeling so. we want to put the pride of Armenianness in these young people. Bringing them to homeland is equally important. But this should be our ongoing effort.
Should be a policy, structure,
education.
Right. Absolutely.
Education of putting this pride within each and every. Pride, not in the sense of really only thinking of ourselves and really looking down on the others, not at all.
No, certainly, yeah.
Because the pride of really belonging to having a strong identity,
And being proud of a centuries-long civilization that has...
Maria, we have a long and rich history. We have a long and rich culture. We have a long literature and the music. And so what makes our literature less important than the literature of the many other? Just go through our literature. Just go through our music. Just through our khachkars and the cultures and all these things. It's beautiful. It's so rich.
So the message is to keep on developing, keep on growing, contributing, and becoming that nation that we are destined to be, hopefully.
Exactly.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Maria.
I'd like to remind our viewers that my guest was Hrayr Jebejian. He is the General Secretary of the Bible Society in the Arabian Gulf. Stay with CivilNet.